They thought they were moving into their dream home, a quiet neighborhood. White picket fences. Friendly neighbors waving as they unpacked boxes, but what they didn't know was that the man in charge of their homeowners association was about to turn their dream into a nightmare. This is the story of how one HOA president abused his power, destroyed lives, and pushed too far, until the day he finally messed with the wrong family. But before we dive into this jaw-dropping story, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to Fair Ship Official, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the shocking twists ahead. Trust me, this one is going to leave you speechless. The sun was setting over Maplewood Estates, one of those picture-perfect suburban neighborhoods where every lawn seemed cut with military precision. Families walked their dogs, kids played basketball in driveways, and the houses looked straight out of a magazine. When Ethan and Claire Matthews pulled up to their new home, a two-story colonial with blue shutters and a wraparound porch, they felt like they had finally made it. Years of savings, sleepless nights, and sacrifices had finally paid off. "It's perfect," Claire whispered as she stepped out of the car, her eyes filling with tears. Their two kids, Lily and Jack, ran toward the front yard, already imagining the adventures they'd have. Ethan grinned, wrapping an arm around his wife. "This is it. Fresh start. No more noisy apartments. No more landlords breathing down our necks. Just home." But as he said it, he noticed something odd. Across the street, a man stood watching them. He was tall, late 50s, wearing a neatly pressed polo shirt tucked into khakis. His arms were crossed, his gaze sharp, too sharp. The man didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just watched. Claire noticed, too. "Who's that?" she asked softly. Ethan shrugged. "Probably just a neighbor. We'll introduce ourselves later." They didn't know it yet, but that man, Richard Kane, the HOA president, was about to change everything. That night, as the family unpacked, Ethan found a thick envelope taped to their front door. It was their official HOA welcome packet. At first, it seemed harmless, rules about trash bins, lawn maintenance, and parking. But as Ethan flipped through the pages, his brow furrowed. "Claire, this is insane," he muttered. "Listen to this. No vehicles in the driveway after midnight. Grass must be cut to exactly 2.5 inches. No basketball hoops, no bikes left outside, no holiday decorations more than 10 days before or after the holiday." Claire frowned. "That's a little strict. But maybe it keeps things nice." Ethan shook his head. "Strict? This feels like a dictatorship." Still, they brushed it off. They were too excited, too hopeful. The first week passed with smiles and barbecues, meeting friendly neighbors who welcomed them warmly. Everyone had one warning, though, whispered quietly, almost fearfully. "Just don't get on Kane's bad side." The first letter came just 3 days after the Matthews family moved in. It was a notice, printed on thick paper, bold red letters at the top. "Violation." Ethan frowned as he read it aloud on the porch. "Failure to store trash bins within 30 minutes of pickup. Fine $50. Claire blinked. "Are you serious?" The garbage truck came at 10 a.m. "You were at work. I was unpacking boxes. The kids had school. We brought them in by noon." Ethan crumpled the paper in his fist. "This is ridiculous." But the fines didn't stop there. The next week, another notice. "Grass exceeding regulation height. Fine, $75. Ethan stared at the lawn. It looked perfect. Green, trim. He'd mowed it just 2 days earlier. Then came another. "Unauthorized basketball hoop. Fine, $100. Ethan's jaw dropped. "That's not even ours. It's the neighbor's hoop." One evening, as Ethan was unloading groceries, Richard Kane himself walked up the driveway. His posture was stiff, his expression smug. "Evening, Mr. Matthews," Kane said, his voice calm but cold. "I see you've received your notices." Ethan forced a polite smile. "Yeah, we got them." "Look, I think there's been some mistakes." Kane cut him off, raising a hand. "Mistakes? No. The rules are the rules. Everyone follows them. That's what keeps Maplewood Estates beautiful." He leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "And I expect you, especially as new residents, to set an example." Claire stepped out onto the porch, folding her arms. "We're trying our best, Mr. Kane, but some of these rules don't make sense." For the first time, Kane's smile cracked into something darker. "Mrs. Matthews, you chose to live here. You signed the agreement. And believe me, I always enforce the agreement." He tapped the folder he carried under his arm, then turned and walked away without another word. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, replaying Kane's words. There was no warmth in them. No neighborly kindness. Just control. Over the next month, the harassment escalated. Kane parked outside their house for hours, clipboard in hand, writing notes. Anonymous complaints piled up. Kids too loud, dog barked, bicycle left out. Fines stacked into the hundreds of dollars. One afternoon, Lily came home from school in tears. "Daddy," she sobbed, "Mr. Kane told me I can't draw with chalk on the sidewalk anymore. He said it makes the neighborhood ugly." Ethan's blood boiled. Chalk drawings. A child's game. That was the violation. Claire tried to calm him, but even she was starting to break. She whispered late at night, "Ethan, maybe we should just pay the fines and keep our heads down. I don't want any more trouble." But Ethan shook his head. "No, if we let him push us now, he'll never stop." And he was right. Because Kane wasn't just enforcing rules. He was targeting them. One Saturday morning, Ethan woke up to the sound of hammering. He rushed outside, only to find Kane and two HOA board members standing at the edge of his lawn, hammering a bright orange sign into the ground, "Property in violation, under review." Neighbors peeked from their windows. Some whispered. Some shook their heads. Claire stood frozen on the porch, humiliated. Ethan clenched his fists. "You can't do this," he shouted. Kane turned slowly, that smug smile plastered on his face. "Oh, but I can. And if you don't fix these violations, we'll put a lien on your house." Imagine that, Mr. Matthews. Your dream home gone. That was the moment Ethan knew. This wasn't just about rules. This was war that IT started small. A fine here, a warning there. But soon it became unbearable. Every week there was something new. Improperly painted shutters, unapproved garden decorations, children's toys visible from the street. Each notice came with another fine, $50, $100, sometimes even $200. Within 2 months, the Matthews owed nearly $2,000 in so-called violations. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, his head in his hands, as Claire opened the latest envelope. Her voice trembled. "They're threatening foreclosure, Ethan. They're saying if we don't pay, they can put a lien on the house." Ethan slammed his fist on the table. "This is insane. We've done nothing wrong." But Claire's eyes filled with tears. "What if we lose everything? What if we lose our home?" Their kids overheard the argument. Jack, only 10 years old, whispered to his sister, "Are we moving again?" Lily hugged her brother tightly, fear in her eyes. That night, Ethan walked outside to clear his head. The street was quiet. Houses lit up warmly inside. And there, under the glow of a street lamp, he saw him, Richard Kane, standing on the sidewalk, watching the Matthews house. Ethan marched toward him. "Why are you doing this?" he shouted, his voice breaking. "What do you want from us?" Kane didn't flinch. His face remained cold, calculating. "Respect. Order. Compliance. This community is perfect because I keep it perfect. People like you think you can just move in and do whatever you want. But not here. Not while I'm in charge." Ethan's chest heaved with anger. "We mow the lawn. We pay the dues. We follow the rules. But you keep inventing new ones just to bleed us dry." Kane smirked. "Then maybe Maplewood Estates isn't the right place for your family." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Ethan trembling with rage. Over the next weeks, the harassment became unbearable. One morning, Ethan found his car booted in his own driveway. A notice taped to the windshield, "Unauthorized overnight parking." Their mailbox was plastered with violation slips, so full the mailman couldn't deliver letters. When Claire tried to decorate the porch with a small pot of sunflowers, Kane had it removed, claiming unapproved vegetation. The final straw came one Friday night. The Matthews returned home from Jack's school play, only to find their front yard completely torn apart. The flower beds ripped out. The wooden swing Ethan had built for Lily gone. A notice nailed to their door, "Unauthorized structures removed by HOA. Costs charged to homeowner." Claire dropped to her knees, sobbing. They destroyed everything. Ethan, everything. Ethan knelt beside her, wrapping his arms around her trembling body. The kids stood silently behind them, too shocked to cry. That night, for the first time, Ethan felt helpless, defeated, broken. But then something changed as he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Anger began to harden into resolve. He whispered to himself, "No more. He's not going to take our home. He's not going to take our lives. Richard Kane thinks he's untouchable, but he just picked the wrong family. And in that moment, the war shifted because Ethan wasn't going to play defense anymore. He was going to fight back. The morning after their yard was destroyed, Ethan sat at the kitchen table staring at the pile of violation notices. His hand shook, not from fear this time, but from rage. Claire placed a cup of coffee in front of him, her face pale and tired. "Ethan, what are we going to do? We can't keep living like this." Ethan lifted his eyes. For the first time in weeks, there was fire in them. "We fight back." Claire blanked. "Fight back? How?" "He owns the board. He controls the rules." Ethan leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Then we take away the one thing he thinks makes him untouchable, his power." That evening, Ethan began knocking on doors, AT first. Neighbors were hesitant. Nervous glances. Quick excuses. But slowly, one by one, they began to open up. Mrs. Harris from down the street whispered, "Kane fined me $500 for planting roses instead of azaleas." Mr. Thompson sighed. "He had my truck towed, even though I had a visitor's pass." The Perez family admitted he threatened to evict us for hanging Christmas lights too early. Dozens of stories. Dozens of victims. Ethan realized something powerful. They weren't alone. Kane had built his rule on fear. He controlled the HOA board, silenced complaints, and used intimidation to keep everyone in line. But the neighbors weren't loyal. They were terrified. Ethan knew fear could be broken. The next step was evidence. Ethan began documenting everything. Photos of notices with false claims, videos of Kane lurking outside homes, clipboard in hand, testimonies from families who had been fined, harassed, even threatened. One night, with Claire's help, he went through HOA financial records. It wasn't easy. They had to request copies of budgets, invoices, and expenses. But what they found was explosive. Kane had been skimming money from HOA dues. Thousands of dollars listed for maintenance that was never done. Payments made to companies that didn't exist. "He's not just a tyrant," Ethan whispered, staring at the papers. "He's a criminal." Claire's lips curled into the first smile in weeks. "Then we have him." The Matthews called a secret meeting, and in the dimly lit garage of a neighbor's house, more than 20 families gathered. Nervous whispers filled the air until Ethan stood before them, holding up a stack of files. "He's been bullying us for years. But tonight we take that power back." He laid out the evidence. Photos, records, testimonies. Gasps echoed through the room as the truth unfolded. "We have two choices," Ethan continued. "Keep living in fear, or stand together and end his reign." For the first time, the neighbors didn't look scared. They looked angry. Mrs. Harris raised her hand, trembling but determined. "What do we need to do?" Ethan took a deep breath. "We vote him out. And if he fights back, we take him to court." The room erupted in nods, whispers of agreement, a spark of hope catching fire. That night, as Ethan walked home under the quiet glow of the streetlights, he saw Richard Kane again, standing on his porch, arms crossed, watching. But this time, Ethan didn't look away. He stared right back, and for the first time, Kane's smug smile faltered, because deep down, he knew something had changed. The Matthews weren't victims anymore. The countdown to his downfall had begun. The morning of the HOA meeting arrived like a storm. Maplewood Estates looked peaceful from the outside, but inside, tension crackled like electricity. Ethan and Claire arrived early, carrying stacks of files, photographs, invoices, emails, and recorded testimonies. Families from every corner of the neighborhood followed, their faces set with determination. Inside the community hall, Richard Kane sat at the head of the table, clipboard in hand, radiating confidence. He believed, as always, that fear was still his weapon. "Good morning," Kane said smoothly, eyes scanning the room. "I trust everyone has read the agenda." Ethan stepped forward. His voice was calm, but every word cut like a knife. "Actually, Mr. Kane," he began, "I think you should hear something first." He slammed a thick binder on the table. Papers fanned out. Photos of destroyed yards, violation notices, and HOA checks gone missing. The room murmured in shock. "These are just a few examples of what you've done over the years. Threats, fines, harassment, and most importantly, financial fraud." Kane's face tightened. "I don't know what you mean." "Oh, I think you do," Ethan interrupted. "We've got proof. Thousands of dollars of HOA money siphoned to fake companies. Families fined for violations that never existed. And let's not forget your little habit of threatening anyone who questioned you." Whispers filled the hall. Neighbors exchanged nods, finally seeing the truth laid bare. "It's over, Kane," Mrs. Harris said, stepping forward. "Your reign of terror ends today." Kane's confident smirk faltered. He opened his mouth to protest, but the crowd had grown too large, too united. He tried to maintain control, barking orders, but it was futile. Every family in that room had documented his lies, his bullying, and his crimes. The HOA board members, who had silently backed Kane for years out of fear, were now trapped. Evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. The whispers of agreement turned into demands. Vote him out. Now, the vote was unanimous. Kane had no allies left. As the final tally was announced, Kane's face went pale. His power, his control, evaporated in front of everyone he thought he dominated. You can't do this," he shouted, but no one listened. Outside, the Matthews family finally exhaled. Claire hugged Ethan tightly, tears streaming down her face. "We did it," she whispered. "No," Ethan replied, smiling through his own tears. "We all did it." Together, the neighbors cheered, celebrating not just the victory over Kane, but their regained freedom. The neighborhood that had once been ruled by fear was now alive with laughter, light, and a renewed sense of community. But the story wasn't over for Kane. Legal investigations followed. Evidence of financial misconduct led to lawsuits and fines that he could never recover from. The man who once terrorized Maplewood Estates was forced to face the consequences of his actions. For the Matthews family, life slowly returned to normal. Lily and Jack played freely in their yard, chalk drawings decorating the sidewalks without fear. Ethan and Claire finally felt at peace. "You know," Ethan said one evening, watching the sunset over their perfectly trimmed lawn, "we came here thinking we'd found a dream. But what we really found was our strength." Claire smiled. "And the courage to fight for it." The HOA president had taken it too far, and in the end, justice, unity, and resilience won. Sometimes, the people who claim to protect your community are the ones trying to control your life. But when ordinary families stand together, even the most powerful bullies can be stopped. The Matthews family learned that courage isn't about avoiding battles. It's about facing them and winning. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Fair Ship Official, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a story of justice, courage, and the human spirit. Thanks for watching, and remember, no one is untouchable when a community stands together.